Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. I was last night's host, and here I am again. And we have the same guest, good friend Ken Gucker. But
how you doing?
In between shows, Nancy out here in the audience at one of the tables, and I don't know if she's even having soup, probably just a sandwich. But she's saying, hey, the guy does cars. Could you give him a little time to talk about cars? So without further ado, I'm going to let my good friend Ken Gucker talk about cars, and then we'll blend that into politics. Ken?
Well, going back again, as you heard the other night, I restore old classic Cougars and Mustangs.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, the Cougar is almost like this unknown car that nobody really talks about. It's like, people talk about a Mustang or they talk about a Camaro, but they don't talk about a Cougar. They don't talk about a Firebird.
Why not the Mercury Cougar? What's it missing other than the fact that it became a term for an elderly woman looking for a little fun in games?
Well, it's funny that you mention that because I used to be the president of the Connecticut Cougar Club that we founded way back in the late 80s. And then as the terminology came, people started, you're the president of what? You have what going on? And we'd have to explain to them, no, there used to be this car called the Mercury Cougar, which they stopped producing in the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
But we deal with the older ones. We deal with in 1967, the Mercury Cougar was the car of the year. It was introduced out in the Caribbean islands on an old one of these World War II troop haulers, to where friends of mine who were actually at the unveiling didn't know what this new mystery vehicle was going to be. Were led down this path with these tiki torques and stuff, and they all had delays on and such. And they got out to this beach, and all of a sudden this World War II landing craft hits the beach, the doors go down, this white 67 Mercury Cougar comes blasting across the sand, and then it comes to a screeching halt, and it gets out and it's Vic Damone, and Vic Damone starts singing to all the people, showing them, this new product. And then subsequently, the car was loaded onto the ship for the ride home from, I think it was the Virgin Islands, so that the dealers could walk around this. But it's things like that. It's so we specialize, 67 to 73, mostly 69, 70 is where I'm most at. I mean, I still have my Mercury Cougar that I bought when I was in college. Didn't know then that it's an extremely rare model. It's one of the only ones built, and it sits at home waiting for me to get back to it. But that's what kind of sparked it. It was kind of an interest. I purchased this car back in college. I didn't have money to pay somebody to do the work, so I taught myself how to do it, and it became a backup. And of course, when the end of the 80s, when the Reaganomics took a full turn and everything went down, my engineering work, working for a local company, had stopped. You fall into what you can pay your mortgage with and put food on the table, but so it's turned into a love.
You're suddenly an entrepreneur because your regular job disappears temporarily.
Yes.
Okay.
You asked.
Of course. I guarantee you, there's somebody out there.
I hope, Nancy, we got all that for you.
There's somebody out there, Nancy. This is your assignment. You gotta develop a joke about a cougar driving a cougar. So. Doesn't have to be you. It could be another cougar.
I think actually an insurance company did that for a commercial.
Oh, jeez.
They showed an older woman being a cougar driving a cougar.
Oh, well. Audience, find that out. Tell us about it. Send it to us. Okay, enough cars. Thank you. Now, back to who you are, other than your cougar experience. Who you are and what brought you to where we are, just to refresh everybody's memory from last night.
Well, a lot of where I've come from is basically being a citizen of Danbury. I mean, living in the area just about my entire life. But I don't tell people this. I was born in El Paso, Texas, but we came up here when I was 3 years old. So I kind of consider myself old El Paso. In fact, the joke is that if I was born 2 hours earlier, I would have been born in Juarez, Mexico. So I would have been one of those anchor babies, but in Mexico. So I would have to get permission to come back to the country. But when I was 15 years old and applied for my Social Security card to get my first real job, the government sent me a letter denying me my Social Security number because I was an illegal alien who had snuck across the border, given where I had been born and when. Yes, I am Mexican. I don't know how to, but anyway, living in the Danbury area.
With I'm guessing sort of a Eastern European kind of a German name. Well, down in that part of Texas, you have Tejano, which is a nice blend of the pa and the traditional Mexican music.
Well, and in the irony, the look on my mother's face when she opened the envelope was priceless. I mean, the tears rolling out of her eyes were just, I mean, I'm German, I'm Irish, I'm Scottish, I'm English. I mean, I think the farthest we ever went south would be El Paso.
Yeah.
You know, so, but getting back to here, a lot of what sparked my activism here was watching community issues not being addressed by our representation, and not being heard in not only City Hall but in state government and federal government, to where we don't have a voice. In fact, that kind of became our slogan when I ran for Senate. We need a voice. We don't have a voice.
That's got to be the number one thing. If you ask voters across the political spectrum, what's your number one complaint about your representatives in government? It's going to be, they don't listen to me.
Yep.
How in the world, while you were doing your door-to-door, how in the world did you find a way to connect to individuals and to convince them that you really weren't like that other guy, the guy that was in office? It doesn't seem to connect with them other than occasional photo op. What was your what was your protocol for connecting to people and convincing them through your conversation with them that maybe you did care a little bit about them?
Well, I think the biggest thing that people don't seem to realize when they're running for office is they don't know everything that you know. You're not going to have the same ideas that they have. And I always find that the best way to connect with people is to let them talk. Knock on their door. Hi, for my example, I'm Ken Gucker, running for state senate. I'm here to, listen to your concerns and your issues and to see if there's something that you can tell me that maybe I don't know, and maybe I can fill in some things for you that you don't know. And then maybe in the end we can come to, both informing each other. Because a lot of times people, they don't want to be told, they want to be heard. So by going to them and saying, I'm here to listen to you, I want to hear what you have to say. Far too often I've seen other people run for office that they just knock on the door to say, we have to be in and out of here in 30 seconds. Hi, my name's so-and-so, here's my pamphlet, look at my website and leave. And people look at the pamphlet and go, okay,
yeah, and
that's it. But it's remarkably different when you come to the door and you talk to them, and you talk to them like a person. And a lot of times it is. I didn't care myself if I knocked on that door, if I walked away with their vote or not. But at least I heard what they had to say. I got to hear where they were coming from. And many times I would make tons of notes in my sheets, because we would have a walk list with addresses and names and such, and I would make little notes. And then I would follow up with a phone call to answer their question. And sometimes the person would say, I wasn't sure when you were at my door, but you called me back. And you gave me some information that I didn't know, and you helped me. So I'm going to give you a strong consideration. Or they would say, you've got my vote. I had numerous people that were unfortunately going to go the Trump wave. But yet came back and said, but you came to my door, you talked to me, you listened to me, and you followed up. And that's what people are missing. That's what people don't get. And I'll tell you what, it's a great way to stay in shape because you don't have time to eat. You better bring a lot of water with you, and you better bring some extra shoes because you're going to wear them out.
I remember that well. I think when I ran in 2008 for the 107th State Representative District, I think I went through about 4 pairs of shoes. And that was, I focused on condominiums because in my lazy approach to it, condominiums turned out to be the easiest way to get to as many doors in an hour as was possible.
Sadly now, unfortunately, a lot of the condominiums now will not allow you to come knock on their door.
Well, yeah, but they can't because there's a Supreme Court decision which says that no soliciting, but it's excluding political campaigning. And I got a lot of the remarks about, well, you know, our association doesn't allow you to do this, and I had to go through the process, and I would carry something with me that actually explained to them that Supreme Court decision. And not to bother you, I apologize. I won't take your time, but I want you to understand that this is the law of the land. So now we're looking into 2017 to municipal elections.
Yep.
And we're looking into 2018 after that, where we have statewide elections and some federal elections. And we're looking for candidates, not just candidates from the Democratic Party. We're looking for candidates from both parties. We're looking for candidates from third parties to come in, because I think we know that the best way to make for better races, to make for better public servants, to make for Connecticut being a better state, is to have multiple candidates. And that's what the election law has helped us with, the campaign and public campaign financing in Connecticut. Talk about, and you could talk at length about it because we got plenty of time. Talk about.
I'm sure I can talk about this.
Excellent, excellent.
It won't have victim own or cougars in it either.
So talk about, motivate people, motivate Connecticut citizens, motivate citizens in our area to get out and either considering running for office or considering helping someone run for office. Make your pitch.
Well, as you know, when I stood up and said I would run for state senate, I was not only endorsed by the Working Families Party, but I was also the only person running for state senate endorsed by Our Revolution.
And that was the Bernie Sanders campaign.
That was the Bernie Sanders campaign. As people, as you know, and those out there do not know, I was a huge Bernie Sanders supporter. I remember Bernie standing up in the Senate talking about inequalities long before we even got to the last election cycle, and filibustering. Unlike somebody like Ted Cruz, who got up and read Green Eggs and Ham, Bernie actually brought, it's like a thing of Alice's Restaurant, he brought props with him, you know, and he never repeated himself. It was very informational, and I looked at that and said, if that gentleman ever runs for president, he's got me. I was sold right there. This person have that much passion to get forward, even though the wind was not at his back, the wind was in his face, that he was standing up to fight. You know, so when he announced, it was fantastic. We donated time, monies, and ultimately when we had to pick delegates, Bernie took the 5th CD, which is where we are right now. You know, and I was very happy to go up to Torrington and help with the picking our delegates to go. And they did a fantastic job. But locally, you know, we need people to come out. I'm the vice chair, yet again, of the Democratic Town Committee here in Danbury. I've served under 2 other chairs. And I kind of like being vice chair because I like being the guy with the pointed stick every now and then. Because sometimes when you're at the top, you don't really see what's going on below you. But if you got somebody with the pointed stick, kind of push and say, hey, we've got these other areas.
Everybody's watching the chair, which gives the vice chair the opportunity to watch everybody watching the chair.
Yes. And it also gives you the opportunity.
I haven't thought about that, but that's very true.
And it gives the opportunity to be able to, when people, so many people want to talk to the chair and there's only so much time, they can come to somebody like myself. Now, since we've had this revitalization in Danbury, we've had standing room only meetings. You know, all of our people show up who are on the town committee. But what's even more exciting is our visitors and our participants from the community have been showing up to the point of we need to get more chairs. But it's good. But we also allow them to speak. Beginning of every one of our meetings, you don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be, you just have to be somebody who is concerned about the community. You don't even have to be from Danbury. You could be from New Fairfield, Sherman, wherever. But you can come to us and say, at the beginning of the meeting, hey, we have this issue or we have this thing, we want to let you know. Because again, it's all about being informed. And we've opened that process up to where now, unfortunately, some of our members are upset that the meetings take 3 to 4 hours to finish when they used to be a half hour. But it is extremely important to hear what's happening in the community and what's going on.
When you're getting a good quality exchange of ideas, then people should be not in such a hurry to go home and watch Dancing for the Dancing whatever the hell the name of the show is.
Whatever non-reality show is on, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
But also what we've done is we've reached out to numerous communities that aren't used to being reached out. So a lot of the things that I did during my campaign with reaching out to the Ecuadorian community and the Dominican community and many of the others, we've invited them to come in. In fact, we've even made it to where if you are an organized community that wants to get together but doesn't have a space to meet, we will open the doors for you. Because we have had our headquarters for the past 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. We just remodeled it. It's very nice inside. But we always felt that it's a shame that it's only used for one meeting a month and possible other small meetings. But to be able to open that up to an organization. For example, the Great Cava special election that's going on. We've opened up our headquarters, allowed them to use our space to be able to use our Wi-Fi and phones and such to make calls and to get things going for him. And we want to do more of that. Now, going forward as far as candidates, we don't discriminate. The only thing is if we endorse you, you have to become a Democrat. But if you would like to run for something, you can. You know, we want inclusion. We want variety. We want different cultures. We want different people. We want people with an open-mindedness and a vision to come out.
Now, that's being very benevolent to have folks come in from these different communities, because we all know that a lot of those folks are not going to be able to go to the polls to vote come November. And yet, I like to think of them as being Americans in training. That's to say they're here, they're working, they're contributing. They want nothing more than the opportunity to be an American citizen. They're learning the language, they're going to night school to learn, doing their ESL class, English Second Language class, and they're in fact Americans in training, and some of them have been here for decades as Americans in training and are looking for that little room, little opening in the door so they could come in and do it. And yet here you are, you're inviting them with not necessarily any benefit, short-term benefit to the candidate or to the party, for you, and yet here that you're bringing them in to talk.
Well, even to give them an opportunity, even if they want to come and use our headquarters, and it has nothing to do with a candidate or a policy, but maybe you want to get together with a community event. You know, you want to get, for example, I believe the Dominicans do not have a club yet or a space, but if they wanted to come in and say, hey, can we use your, and it's free of charge. Come in, just clean up after yourselves. We'll have somebody down there to unlock the doors and lock the doors, so that everything's fine. Don't park behind the building because DeSilva will have you towed, and it's about $180 when that happens. So don't ever park behind the building. But the idea is to be kind of the voice in the valley to say, look, you are welcome here. We are not going to close our doors on you. We are here because the reason why we are Democrats and progressive Democrats is we are opening our arms to the community because, again, if you don't know what the community is about and if you don't know how they're thinking about things, it's tough to represent them and it's tough to give them a voice, especially when many of them are afraid to have a voice because they're afraid of what might come down the road later. So we open up for that. But we also encourage people, you can be involved in the Democratic Party in Danbury and not be a Democrat, but you have to be a Democrat to serve on the town committee. But we have various boards and organizations to where we want people to come in who are not on the board because the idea is the more people we get involved, this big tent idea, and make them feel part of something that they're not usually used to, we want you to come in. We want you to tell us what you're feeling. We want you to know what your issues and concerns are. And by that, we then are able to get people that are able to represent your needs because now they know. But then the other thing that happens is when you get involved, being an outsider, you realize, well, geez, I can make a change. I want to help you with this. I want to run for zoning, or I want to run for the Board of Ed, or I want to help you with this, or I may not want to run for them, but I can help you get some good people there. So again, it's about giving little pieces, many hands doing the work rather than just one. And what we see going on, unfortunately, in Danbury is a lot of, the top of the mayor at the top is kind of like the tree telling the rest of them what to do. Mm-hmm. Well, we want to have the roots telling the tree what to do. We want the people at the bottom who may not know a lot about everything, but know a lot about this piece or that piece or this other piece, or know how people are feeling. Because I will tell you, I mean, going to many of these cultural events that we've been having at the Morambi Center and listening to some of these immigrant communities about the fear and about the miscommunication, the misunderstanding. And these are United States citizens here legally who are afraid of retribution and hate and such. We want you to come, let us help you, let us know how we can help you, and in turn, let's work together to change it. Because the only way you're going to change this is by a movement. And we need to have that movement. But if everybody's huddled and hiding in corners, it's really hard to get that together.
Yeah. So let's deal in hypotheticals for a moment. Let's say I'm a guy named David Stevenson who happens to live in Bethel right now. Mm-hmm. Let's say I'm thinking about moving, let's say to New Fairfield. Whom should I talk to? Or let's say if I were for Danbury, I could talk to you obviously in Danbury, but New Fairfield's part of your area too.
Yep. I'm a whole mile and a half from the line.
Okay, okay. So and then you've got of course, is Sherman part of your Senate district also? Okay. Let's say let's cut the difference between Danbury and Sherman and say, let's say I move into New Fairfield. How would I approach the Democratic Party in New Fairfield to get involved, to maybe even run for office next year or in 2018? What would I do?
Well, you would want to contact the head of the New Fairfield Democratic Party, which is Craig David Rosen. Mm-hmm. He actually lives in Ball Pond. He lives in the 138th part of New Fairfield, because New Fairfield is represented by 3 different House districts, by the way they gerrymandered that deal up. Mm-hmm. You'd want to get a hold of them. I believe their meetings are the last Thursday of each month. I can find out for you, or we can put something out. Mm-hmm. I would go on. I know they have a Facebook page. Mm-hmm. I would probably look up New Fairfield Democrats. Yep. I know they have a website that they're updating. So that would be good. And the same thing with Sherman, if you were to move into Sherman. I know that the previous chair, Joel Brzezinski, is thinking of stepping down because of just a lot of family commitments and such, because it does take a lot of time. Mm-hmm. But they're very much interested in help as well. With us in Danbury, yes. As always, our meetings are always the second Monday of every month at 7:30. Everybody's welcome, just don't park behind the building. But also, we have, I believe on our website right now, we're putting up, if you're interested in running for anything, let us know. But the best thing would be to go to one of these town committee meetings, feel out the waters, talk to these people and say, hey, I'm thinking of running. Now, obviously, if you're going to move into, say, New Fairfield, mm-hmm. I would suggest you come talk to me, since I spent enormous amount of time in New Fairfield, and I can tell you maybe some of the issues and where they're having where they could use some help, and where they could really do the best.
We have a question from the audience. What's the address of the Danbury headquarters on Main Street?
I believe it's if I get this right, 161 Main Street.
That's it. Yep, next to the.
It's right next to the Palace Theater, across from the library.
Yep.
You'll see the beautiful new sign that we put up.
Danbury Democrats.
Danbury Democrats.
Seen it. Yep.
So yeah, that's where we are. If you're going to come down to headquarters, obviously our meetings are at 7:30. You can park in the street. You can park anywhere, because the meters turn off at 5:30.
Second and fourth Monday of each month?
No, it's always the second Monday of the month.
Second Monday of each month. Okay.
Yeah, the first Tuesday of every month is the council meeting at City Hall, which I encourage people to go sign up on the City of Danbury's website for notifications if you're thinking about running for something and you really want to know, and even if you're not, if you want to know what's going on in Danbury and what's coming out of City Hall, there used to be a sign up, I believe there still is, I've been on it for numerous years, but you will get all the agendas, meeting schedules and such for the council, for the planning commissions, for the zoning commissions, for EIC, even the bid packages come out, all that such, so you get a chance to review it. And there's been many times with my activism getting those emails and then turning around and saying, gee, I didn't realize this was happening tonight, and get the word out. And because a lot of it is about being knowledgeable and about really watching what's going on. But it also helps when you, say, bump into a neighbor at the grocery store, or you bump into somebody in the street, to be able to say, hey, they start talking about something. Oh, wait, there's a meeting on that, or there's going to be an informational thing on that. So it's moreover being like a beacon of information, I think really seems to be a key.
So if let's say my interests were, let's say I was moving to Danbury, and my interest would be maybe along the lines of planning and zoning or inland wetlands or one of the committees, what's the benefit to me to be a part of that if I were to run for office? What's in it for me?
Well, you should never go into politics. I know this is altruistic, but you should never go into politics with what is in it for me.
Okay.
It should be more about what can I give back to the community. I mean, myself as being an Eagle Scout from Troop 42 in New Fairfield, we were always taught to give back to the community. And that's what it's always been. Do unto others. Help people at all times.
I'm hearing John Kennedy there somewhere. Ask not what your
Exactly.
country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Do something for America to make it a better place.
And that's what we need to do here. It needs to be moreover, you need to have a passion for doing these. If you want to get in front of one of these boards, you want to do it because you want to better your community and that board.
And with that, we're going to wrap up our Thursday show. Good friend Ken Gucker, thank you for joining me last night and tonight. And in Progressive Soup, I'm David Stevenson. And we'll see you next Monday. Bye. I'm sorry, next Wednesday.